Testing, testing. I don't like how it's showing up on my screen here. Let's see. Testing, testing. JB here, JB here. September 29th, 2021. Just going to talk really quick. We have about 11 minutes to the open. Obviously, yesterday, the worst sell off for the NASDAQ since 6 months ago, 2.8%, as the rising rate environment, or at least the yields rising, has caused a lot of those momentum names in the tech space to sell off. And the S&P was down 2%. And you would think there would be some type of bounce, and we closed pretty much right at the lows of the day. What did I say? I'm just trying. Okay. So first, I'll start. Typically, when I have call positions on and the market sells off, especially when they're longer dated strikes, not weekly positions, I look to get hedges, one or two hedges, because at some point we're going to have some kind of bounce and the stock's going to be higher than where it was when the sell-off happened. So I was looking at Team, just names. Team and MDB have been on crazy runs, huge earnings, great growth stories. So I'm not bearish the company's prospects. I'm just looking for names that are just going to sell off just in sympathy, and usually those names sell off faster than the market does. So I got the MDB calls. The stock had already sold off the day before, and I think it was down already 2% when I got the puts, and dropped down into 460s, closed some out to cover some costs. I still held a couple into today because I want to have some type of hedge just in case, and I'll probably hold them into tomorrow, depending if it gets 479 or so is the middle Bollinger Band. If it gets over that, probably I'll salvage those depending on what the price is, and then I'll look to revisit on any other weakness. And then on the flip side here, you have other names. I entered those trip calls at the start of the week. Still have time on those. Unfortunately, the stock did not do too well yesterday. DraftKings, that 50 handle on DraftKings, I think it's strong. Like, that's a strong zone right there. If it can get back over that 50 handle, I think it's off to the races. So I'll continue to look for opportunities to play both of those names for longer dated strikes. A tree just after it hit I think it was 116 change on Friday, has done nothing but just staying right near the 140 level here. Just it's pretty much a $20 reversal from its highs a couple days ago. At some point, that thing's going to take off. I'm not going to add any more strikes on that one until it finds some support, but still like that one longer term. I put on the watch list this morning. CMG had two analysts op-ins this morning. Oh no, Wing had two analyst op-ins. One positive note, one neutral rating. Those stocks are off quite a bit over the last couple sessions on no real catalyst, just the market selling off. Chipotle's off over $100. I think there's opportunities there, especially Chipotle, because there's weekly strikes. The premiums are expensive, but maybe some 1915s or 1920 calls may look at those. And then SMG, and every time I look to get calls on SMG, it rockets out of the gate at the open. It did it the day before. It did it yesterday from 146 up to 153, and then it just sells off or stays range bound for the rest of the day. At some point, the seller's gonna be gone, and SMG is gonna be 165, 170. So I'll continue to look to play that one for upside. Same with Burlington, and I talked about Burlington a couple months, after its earnings report. It reported earnings with Ulta, and you take a look at retailers that reported strong earnings and sold off. Ulta had a decent report and sold off. Burlington had a somewhat decent report, but there were logistical concerns that are going to weigh on their margins, higher costs, supply issues, and you saw the stock sell off. But the company has a buyback. It's one of those solid brands that it's not going away. It's probably going to be back at all-time highs at some point. So you take a look at the chart, it was pinching, so maybe 320, 330 on Burlington. So I was looking at the 320s Monday, maybe today or tomorrow I'll look to get some weekly speculative calls. And then last but not least, Danger Ranger posted in the afternoon yesterday that this week's, it's almost like setting up like the fourth quarter of 2018. If anybody remembers 2018, we had a huge sell-off, and the bottom of that sell-off was Christmas Eve. And then markets rallied. There were concerns around rising rates, and I think yields hit the highest they hit in November of 2018, and all they have done ever since has pretty much went down. I'm not saying we're in the same situation here. There's concerns, of course, the logjam in regards to the debt ceiling. You have the start of the taper, which it's already been blueprint. The blueprint's been out there already. So to think that the market's going to sell off now based on something that's already been discussed, it's kind of confusing. At least to me, I think you would have saw some some of the rising rate impacts happen at least a couple months ago. Of course, you still have the China situation going on, and it seems that it's always going to rear its head. Although some of those stocks rallied yesterday, I guess they had a debt sale or something to that effect. So that's kind of it. I'm not really planning to do too much today. If the market goes green to red, I may look for some other put hedges to play for downside, so I can at least hold some of my call positions, and then at some point look to play bottoms on some of these names. I think that's it. TWLO is another name I was looking yesterday for some possible puts. It was actually holding up pretty well right up till 3 o'clock, and then it just sold off. I think, 3 o'clock, 3:30, and it went all the way down to 321. Another one of those names, great story, but it's just going to sell off just because as rates go up, people look at the high multiple names, the high growth names, and they sell off. That's just what happens regardless of them being great growth stories or great companies. I think that's it. Apologize for my nose. Let's have a great day today, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.